All right. It's my pleasure to introduce two gentlemen that I got to hear yesterday, Ben Mathis, who's the founder of Row, and Mike Reinsel. And they're going to come up and tell you about Rivers of the World.
Good morning. Oh, come on, better than that. Good morning. My name is Ben Mathis. I am the old man of Row. Row stands for Rivers of the World, from Africa to Asia, all across the Americas. Historically, we primarily use rivers as a way to get to people. We go down a remote jungle river and we ask, what's the most difficult thing about living here and what do you want to do about it? And we make it very clear. It is your country, your people, your village, our problem. Now, what's the problem and what do we do about it? So since we ask, we get an awful lot of different answers. We're a very broad-based, holistic ministry that begins and ends with sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. We have done this so long that we used to carry generators and huge speakers and film projectors on our heads, climb up the escarpment in Zaire and show it up on sheets in the trees. Now we do solar-powered projectors and solar-powered Bibles. And, you know, truth be known, we go back so far, we used to just take Jesus with him and let him tell the story himself. When I do this, that was pretty good. I mean, it's early. The next show is better, I promise. When I do this, I show my first boat and I say, isn't she beautiful? And you scream back, yes, isn't she beautiful? She was stolen from us by the Army of the Congo. During their civil war, they took my staff, 5 families, and held them hostage. I cut a deal with the Army of Uganda to fly me in. I'm going to sink my ship. I'm going to get my families back. After 3 months in captivity, as my families escaped, the bad guys had too many guns, so we couldn't steal our boat back. We did the next best thing. We sank her out from under the Army of the Congo. She sits on the bottom of the Sankuru River, and all I have is that beautiful flag that hung off the back end of the Kutomisa. Oh, God bless you. Thank you. We have used all kind of boats over the years, and we've learned some are better than others. That has a complete medical and dental clinic on it, and she's made out of wood. When you're in a hot jungle, if you're in a metal boat, you're going to cook. A wooden boat is always better. The Amazon, just like the Congo River, are what we consider to be interstates. And we're looking for dirt roads. The Apiacu, the Yanayacu, the Galvez, the Yavari in Peru, where we can pull a small boat in and actually live on the boat, pull it right up to the village, and live really among the people that we serve in that part of the world. It makes it more intimate. It makes it more real. Our largest boat, Roger, here she is. This is Mama Mickey. Mama Mickey pushes 90 tons up the Congo River, 900 tons. She's feeding at refugee camps by day, preaching the gospel at night. When she goes from Kinshasa to Kisangani, she fills her barges with hardwood, coffee, manioc, palm oil, and she becomes a business. And that way we're running ministry by doing business, and she is self-sufficient. That's quite a challenge in that part of the world. If you listen to K-Love Christian Radio, I spent 15 years on K-Love telling stories about Row twice a day. You may have heard me. I am the only Southern voice on all of K-Love, but it opened doors for us. It enabled us to get on the Mamano River in Venezuela, where we could go deeper in our ministry. Get it? We're going deeper because we're seeing the same things that we've seen in the 38 years I have done this sort of work. I still see malnourished children in Africa. That child is 10 years old. He's doing nothing but dying from malnutrition because of corrupt government, drought, lack of infrastructure, war after war after war. I was in Thailand last month. I lived there part-time. We added a little kitchen onto our orphanage because the children were cooking in the rain. We've involved university students, and I'm proud to tell you that kid is the worst cook in all of Thailand. We learned the children get worms because when it rains in Southeast Asia and they stand in the mud, mud becomes a vector for parasites. That's easy to correct. Let's build a 150-yard-long driveway. You've heard the passage of Scripture, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. How about how beautiful is the foot of those who brought good news? That's me. I'll have prints available. They're very expensive, but I will sign those prints. It's my attempt at being artistic. Anyway, here's the real problem. That's Susie. That is the only expression that child makes. I don't know her story, but I know that only Jesus can heal that heart, and that's why we're there. Only Jesus can heal that heart. In a small village called Comandancia, Peru, Jamie can't walk. Well, we can do something about that. Let's get him a wheelchair. That's easy enough to do. But then he inspired us because we discovered that the next nearest medical care is 90 miles away by water. So we cleared off the jungle. We've built a magnificent polyclinic that will bring strong evangelical Christian medical work that will heal, cure, and show compassion. We're like everybody else. We've built it. You name it, we've built it. We've built ships and houses and churches and clinics. We have about 1,000 volunteers a year that go with us. They do sports ministries, and now we're part of 4 different universities' curriculum. We take nurses and make them bush nurses out in the jungle. We take physical therapists and help them learn to use their skills in an evangelical ministry. Roe is going through an interesting time of transformation, well, evolution. We are evolving from being a ministry of compassion to a ministry of transformation. And I want to introduce our executive director. This is Mike Reinsel. Mike, you come tell him what we're doing. Thanks.
Right. So as Roe has transitioned from being a ministry of project-based compassion to one that is empowering community-driven transformation, we've had to reshape our thinking around the gospel, that the gospel isn't just going and preaching about Jesus. The gospel isn't just going in and doing good deeds and humanitarian projects, that it's an integrated gospel bringing those two things together. And so that's what the gospel is for Roe. And we've built a model out, a holistic model, as Ben says, that we have 6 sectors that we think are the intersection between the core competencies of Roe and the core needs of the people that we serve: water and sanitation, food and agriculture, healthcare, education, economic development at some level, and then the spiritual health and vitality of the community. And so instead of doing one-off projects in those areas, we're taking a more holistic approach and have a strategy to engage with the local community as the first step. The relationship building piece is vital, and then moving through, building out the strategy, implement the strategy, measuring at the back end. And that is Roe's new model. About 3 weeks ago, I was here on a remote jungle trail in Indonesia. Very difficult country. You may know that the country of Indonesia has the highest Muslim population anywhere in the world. It's a very difficult place to do work. That's a new country for us. And I met a woman who was sitting outside of her house. And we asked her, she had had a new home built 4 months earlier and she had not moved in. We asked her why she didn't move in. She said, because the witch doctor hasn't given me permission to move in. Those are the kind of challenges that Roe faces. Meanwhile, up the river in Nicaragua, our work is going great. We launched there about 2 years ago, and we fly into Managua, we take a little puddle jumper over to Bluefields on the coast, and then we go about 200 miles down a remote river called the Rio Grande de Matagalpa, 200 horsepower panga boat, and we get to this remote area of the Rio Grande de Matagalpa. There are 14 communities there that no one has ever worked in. We are partnering with another organization to work there, and we are partnering with the communities there because our model is community-driven transformation. The first step of that, as I told you, is building relationships. We met the leader of the central community of those 14 communities. Her name is Doña Inés. She lives in a village called Kansas City. Now, why there's a village called Kansas City in the middle of the jungle in Nicaragua, I have no idea, but that's the name of the community. We met with Doña Inés and we said, here's a vision for what we might be able to partner to do together. What if we built out a base camp here and we had a medical distribution and a food distribution and just a ministry distribution model coming out of the village of Kansas City? She said, that's great. I said, what's your investment going to be? She says, we're going to be deeply invested. I said, what does that mean? And she said, we are going to be the labor force to make that happen. And so we sat down with the community leaders from those 14 communities. In each of those communities, we gathered to do the assessment on the front end. Now, in that culture, it's an oral, predominantly illiterate culture. You don't go in with an iPad and start doing assessments. And so we use a model called the 10-seed approach, where we gather 10 community leaders together and we start asking them questions. We say, what's your greatest barrier to education? Well, we don't have a church, or we don't have a school, we don't have a teacher, we don't have textbooks. They list out what the barriers are. Each of them has a bean or a seed that represents their voice for the community. We write those down on a piece of paper, and each of those community leaders puts their seed in the area that they think is the greatest need in that particular area. They'll move their seeds around, they'll talk, sometimes they'll fight and argue about it, but at the end of the day, it's their voice speaking to us about what their greatest needs are, and we have the privilege of partnering with them to address those needs. Now, in this particular area, the first part of that project was building out a wharf because the water level from low point to high point in rainy and dry seasons is about a 60-mile rise in the level of the river. So we built a wharf there so that we could get our supplies and equipment up. And for the first time ever in these 14 communities, there were 80 guys that came together from 5 of those communities to unload all of the materials and bring all of the stuff up to begin construction on a base camp that includes a training and dining facility, a dormitory, and a clinic that is now under construction. That clinic required about 180 tons of building materials that we shipped up the river. And again, it was amazing to see the folks come together. There were, this time, 200 different people from 8 of the communities that gathered together to unload all of the stuff to build out that clinic. It's just amazing to see. The women cooked, the men ate, and then they started to build. And so the majority of the base camp is built out. The clinic is being built even as we speak. And those guys are just going at it. What you won't see in any of these pictures is Westerners. They are doing all of the work. The indigenous people are doing the work. That's Roe's model. What you won't see is cement mixing trucks. That thing doesn't exist out in the jungle in Nicaragua. So it's a lot of hard work goes in, but they are now pouring on top of a slab that they have poured. They are building the walls of a clinic that's going up, that's going to provide a medical distribution model into these 14 different communities. And so they have sat around and celebrated that. Now they're working, putting up the walls, putting up the roof, so that when the drought comes or when the flood comes, and it will come, that they're prepared and that we're prepared together to serve alongside them in a distribution model of holistic community care, of reaching out into those communities, addressing the needs of the people within those communities, providing things like seeds when the crops wash away, and providing things like medicine when they have medical needs from the floods. We are applying a holistic model to be able to enter into the lives of people in the most challenging places on earth and empower them, not do ourselves, but empower them to find a better way. Last thing I want to say, I came from the business world, had about a 20-year business career before God called me into full-time vocational ministry and called me to Roe. And in the business world, we measured everything. I mean, we had stats and statistics and measurements and metrics of success, and the bottom line was $1. In our work, the bottom line is people's health and people's eternal destiny. And so when I started to ask people, how are we going to measure success in Roe, there were a lot of sideways looks. We didn't really have measurement tools, and so we built out a dashboard for each of our communities that has the sectors across the top, and then down below as you drop down, it has the outputs and the outcomes that are determined by that front-end assessment. We can go back in and reassess, remeasure, and the constituents that are partnered with us, whether they're collaborative partners, whether they're churches, foundations, individuals like you, can see the progress that we're making together to empower these communities to move from extreme material poverty to a level of sustainability and to lead them and empower them in a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. Ben, come on up and close us out.
You can see why I'm so proud of him, can't you? Isn't that neat? Let me tell you, Mike is going to Nicaragua in February. The best way you can learn about this is go with him. You will have a big time. We will let you pay your own way and work you to death. Who could ask for more? Now, next Tuesday, I will be back at this hotel. If you'll take your response forms, if you'd like to get together, once you vote, if you would like to elect to be with someone, I'd like to be your candidate for a little more discussion. Boy. Anyway, that's on next Tuesday. If you'll write Ben on the response sheet, I'll get with you. I'd love to hear your story because you've now heard ours. Right over here is Miss Kathy. Would you stand up real quick? Come on, Miss Kathy, stand up. It's this lady's birthday. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't think of anything better than let's raise $250,000 and build a boat and name it after her. You want to? I'll be right over there when we finish. Thank you, Miss Kathy. God bless you. I'm going to close with, okay, it's clever. We got a personal request. Our request to you is that from now on, whenever you cross a river, please pray for the fact that there are those serving on the rivers of the world. This is Mike Reinsel. My name is Ben Mathis. God bless you. You stay strong, and God bless America. Thank you.